Hi guys, it's Leah. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new, and welcome to my summer TBR. There are so many books that I want to get to this summer. I feel like I always feel so motivated to read in summer, especially when it comes to literary fiction and classics. This entire stack, I have 13 books today that I am going to fight for my life to get to. I would absolutely love to read more than the 13 books here. I definitely have a lot more on my radar, but these are the 13 that I am so eager to get to, and above everything else, these are my priority for the next couple of months. Getting straight into it, we'll start with a book that I'm actually starting this week. It is incredibly sunny this week. I think it's the first time it's really this hot in the UK. It's upwards to like 30 degrees, which is crazy. And this one I'm definitely anticipating to binge read this week, especially hopefully outside. It is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like I haven't read a Taylor Jenkins Reid for a really long time, but the majority of the books that I have read from her I have really adored. I actually don't know too much about what this one is about. All I think I know about it is that we are following astronauts, or at least has a backdrop of NASA, and that is kind of all I want to know. I want to go into it incredibly blind. I have seen a lot of people sob at the ending, classic Taylor Jenkins Reid style, so that does make me a little bit nervous, but I'm very excited to read another one of her books. This is the gorgeous proof copy. I love this so much. I think it's beautiful, but on the inside it does say, to give a brief synopsis I suppose, it says, an epic novel set against the backdrop of the 1980s space shuttle program about the extraordinary lengths we go to live and love beyond our limits. Atmosphere is Taylor Jenkins Reid at her best, transporting readers to iconic times and places, creating complex protagonists and telling a passionate and soaring story about the transformative power of love, this time among the stars. I just don't really know what to expect, but like I said, I've seen people cry. I'm anticipating to love it. Hopefully it will be a 5-star. One that I've been saving specifically for summer, and specifically probably for the upcoming week, is Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. I saw so many people raving about this book last year, and I really wanted to get to it, but I knew that I wanted to save it for summer because I believe it is set, it's set in London, June 2019. On the blurb it says, a Saturday night approaches in a city on the brink of political upheaval. All their lives are set to change forever. It's the hottest summer on record and the weekend is about to begin. It looks like we're following quite an array of different characters and quite a cast of characters, which I really love, and I just feel like this is going to be the perfect book to binge read this summer, especially in the UK. I've heard the way it talks about and describes London is really accurate and really beautiful, and I just love that because I am always in London. I feel like at this point I live part-time in London, but I'm just so excited for this. This is one that I feel like also could be a 5-star. This is very high on my TBR. Like I said, definitely one that I might try and get to this week. Then we have a book by an author that I have been wanting to read for years, and I still cannot believe I've never read anything from her before, is Sex and Rage by Eve Babitz. I don't actually know where the best place to start with Eve Babitz is. If you have read Eve Babitz, if you love her work, where would you recommend starting? Because this is the only one that I own, so I will likely start with this. However, I know she has quite an extensive backlist. I would love to get to all of them one day, but I don't really know where to start. I'm very excited. I don't know anything about this book specifically. However, it's set in 70s Los Angeles, and it does say that this is a semi-autobiographical novel. It charts the highs and lows of a life lived at the limits, transports the reader to a sunnier, dreamier, more reckless time and place. I know that Eve Babitz was a lot of artists and like musicians' muse. I've always seen comparisons and discussions, I suppose, to Joan Didion, who I really love. She is one of my favourite writers. Again, I need to read more from her. I know they had some sort of friendship and also falling out. It just all sounds really interesting to me, in like 1970s Los Angeles, the drama, the highs. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Another one I've definitely been saving for summer. I mean, I've never read an Eve Babitz before, but I feel like she is a perfect author to binge read in this season. So yeah, I don't know. This is the one that I'll be starting with first. I will be incredibly excited to finally be able to say that I read one of her works, and yeah, I'm very excited for that. Next we have a new release that actually is publishing in July, and that is One Yellow Eye by Lee Radford. This sounds incredibly different to all of the other books that I have on my TBR, but I'm incredibly excited about it. I believe it is post-apocalyptic. Again, it is another one that I want to go into knowing as little as possible. I do believe it is post-apocalyptic, but all I can see on the blurb is Olivia Blake blurbed it as compulsively readable, a propulsive, page-turning descent into all that is lovely and grotesque about grief, obsession and love. And once I read that, I was like, that could also be a 5-star. I feel like every single book on here could be a 5-star, I'm not gonna lie. All of the authors on the blurb are talking about how it is a zombie novel but also a love story, and I'm so fascinated by that. If you know anything about me, I love post-apocalyptic fiction, especially when it leans into more literary stories, and I love exclusively the character development and the arcs and the friendships and all of that in stories like that. I just feel like I'm gonna love it. Again, it comes out in July, so I actually haven't seen anybody talk about it. However, I am incredibly excited. Another book that I'm incredibly excited about, this is another new release, is of course Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston. I feel like everyone is gonna have this on their summer TBR this year. year. I really adore Ashley Poston. I loved The 7-Year Slip so much. That is still one of my favourite romances, and I actually did love, what was her A Novel Love Story? I really liked that one. I know that that one got a few mixed reviews, but I kind of had the time of my life with it. And this one, again, I don't really know anything about this, but because it's Ashley Poston and I love her writing, I know I had to read it. I think when it comes to her novels, I just love how unique they are, and simultaneously the way that she interweaves love stories and romances with magical realism really works for me. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of another author who has really explored that sort of subgenre, but it works so perfectly, and because of that I'm just so excited to read it. Like with so many of these books, I really don't know anything about the plots. I'm going into them incredibly blind, but I love that so much. That is definitely my preferred way of going into reading, so apologies that I'm not reading out the synopses. Like I said, Ashley Poston has definitely been a 5-star author for me in the past, so I'm anticipating to love this one. I'm very intrigued to see what it's actually about. Actually, another 5-star author is Melissa Broder, specifically The Pisces. I am incredibly excited to read this year. I think this is the only book from her that I've yet to read, because Death Valley is a 5-star. It was one of my favourite books that I read last year. I've also read Milk Fed, which I liked, not as much as Death Valley at all. However, I've had so many people rave about The Pisces for years, and again, obviously, like just on the cover alone, it's definitely one that needs to be read in summer. All I know about this one specifically is that we are following a protagonist who at some point, somehow, fall in love with a merman. She falls in love with a fish. And I suppose kind of like Ashley Poston in a way, obviously incredibly different. The way that Melissa Broder writes is nothing the way that Ashley Poston writes. But that blend of magical realism and a love story I love so much, specifically in Shark Heart 2 by Emily Haback I read earlier this year. I loved it. One of my favourite books that I read actually probably this year, yeah. I feel like that would be its closest companion and also comparison in terms of a love story where a protagonist falls in love with a fish, or there is a development turning into a fish. I don't know, it just sounds so interesting. This is one of those books that I'm like, okay, if I was ever to explain to someone who doesn't read what the book I'm currently reading is, they would think I'm batshit insane, but a 5-star prediction. I really am expecting to love this. I'm so excited to finally tick it off on my TBR. Next we have The Wall by Marlon Hochefer. I don't actually know if this is a good book for summer, but I'm just so excited about it that I can't really put it off any longer. All I know about The Wall is that it is a post-apocalyptic dystopian novel. I've heard it's very strange. I've also seen so many people compare it to I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, which is of course one of my favourite books. I've only ever seen the best things about this book. I've only ever seen 5 stars, and again, it's been on my TBR for so long and I just need to finally get to it. London Review of Books blurbed it as by turns dystopian and utopian, an idyll and a nightmare. Every joint and sinew of the story is restless with a sense of fret. I don't really know why, but lately I've really been in the mood of exploring more dystopian fiction. I feel like I had a real stint of reading them over and over again and finding so many incredible ones, but I feel like I haven't read a good one. I'm looking at Silverly in a really long time, and now I'm craving good dystopian literature. This will definitely be the next one that I read in the dystopian sense, and I'm very excited to finally tick it off my TBR again. Like all of these honestly are just my priority TBR that I need to get to this summer or else. An author who I would finally love to start reading, and again is an author who I feel like a lot of people associate with summer, is Natalia Ginzburg, specifically Family and Borghesia. Like Eve Babitz, I don't know if this is the best place to start with Natalia Ginzburg, however it is the one that I own, so we will be starting with it for that. I don't really know anything about what her writing style is like. I don't know what the plot of this book is, but I can imagine they're quite domesticated in the way that Elena Ferrante is. I've definitely seen quite a few comparisons between those authors, but simultaneously I have so many friends that have absolutely loved Natalia Ginzburg. I know that when I was a bookseller too, everyone loved her in the summer. Yeah, I don't really know what to expect. However, I love in literary stories when we are so simply exploring friendships and relationships and different sort of dynamics between people. I just love that so much, especially in the summer. I don't know what it is about the summer, but I only ever really want to read literary fiction, and I feel like this author is a prime example of that. And again, I'm hoping to fall in love with her work. I would love to be able to binge read some of her work this year, especially if I love this. But yeah, I'm finally making my journey with Natalia Ginzburg and I'm incredibly excited about it. Next we have Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. I love Yoko Ogawa so much. She is quickly becoming one of my all-time favourite authors. The Memory Police is one of my favourite books of all time, and earlier this year I also read The Housekeeper and The Professor and I fell in love with it. This is a short story collection, and I thought, because I don't really have any other short story collections on this list and I do love dipping in and out of them sometimes, this would be a great one to add. I did actually read the blurb of this one and it sounds super interesting. So it says, murderers and mourners, mothers and children, lovers and innocent bystanders, locked in the embrace of an ominous and darkly beautiful web, their fates all converge through the 11 stories here in Yoko Ogawa's Revenge. As tales of the macabre pass from character to character, an inspiring writer, a successful surgeon, cabaret singer, a lonely craftsman, Ogawa provides us with a slice of life that is resplendent in its chaos, enthralling in its passion and chilling in its cruelty. It sounds utterly perfect, and because I know that I love her writing style so much, again, this is a very high prediction for me. I know I'm going to fall in love with it, and on top of that, it's incredibly incredibly short. So I don't know if this would actually be a good place as a recommendation to start with Yakuagawa, because I would say The Memory Police, but I know that some people wouldn't say that's the best place to start. Very intrigued to see how her writing style translates into a short story collection, but another one that I'm incredibly excited about. Genuinely take a shot every time I say that because it's getting crazy at this point. Okay, we're on to the last literary fiction, and then I have 3 classics that I would like to get to this summer, and this one has been on my TBR literally for years, I think, at this point. It is Bad Habit by Alana Sent Portero. This is a proof copy. Okay, it came out in 2024, so not too bad, but I have been excited about this for a really long time. Another one that I've had friends rave about, rate 5 stars. I've only really seen 5-star reviews. I'm anticipating to love it. All I really know about this one is that we are following a trans protagonist, and based off of the reviews that I've seen, I've had the representation is utterly phenomenal. I've had the writing is phenomenal, and I'm just so intrigued by it. On the blurb it says, a staggering and sublimely beautiful debut novel following the coming of age of a young trans woman in Madrid in the last decades of the 20th century. That is all I really know about this. I don't really know what to expect in terms of its prose nor its plot. However, I am expecting it to floor me and completely astound me based on reviews I've seen. So yeah, another one that I cannot wait to get to. Okay, and lastly, we have 3 classics that I would love to get to this summer. Let's start off with the one that I am definitely probably the most intimidating book on my entire TBR currently. It is Remembrance of Things Past, Volume 1 by Proust. Why does it intimidate me, you ask? Look at the size of that. I've been wanting to read Proust for years. Again, so many of my friends love him. I've only had raving reviews, and I want to start my journey with him. I'm terrified, like utterly terrified. However, I feel like I'm going to fall in love with his writing. Again, I don't really know what to expect in terms of its plot. All I think I know is that we are following one protagonist. We are following a boy who is basically living his life in the journey through life in all of its desire and like sex and grief and loss and love and all of that. And again, I love literary stories like that. I love classics like that, especially when we are following one protagonist who we just follow throughout their entire life. I feel like that is such a beautiful meditation on youth sometimes and life and just pure experience. I feel like I'm going to fall in love with it. Obviously I'm terrified, like I said, because of the size. However, this is definitely one that I'm not expecting to like binge read. I'm not expecting to finish this even within a month. I just want to take my time with it. I just want to start it. Kind of the way that I did with the Complete Stories by Clarice Lispector, where it took me over a year to read. I want to just sit with this for a while. I just want to start it this summer. So hopefully I will. Please hold me accountable. If you've read this, please send me your words of wisdom, because I feel like if you've read it and you're raving about it, I'm going to feel so much more inclined to pick it up. But just want to start my journey with it this summer. I'm getting a real pull towards it. So hopefully I do. Talking about Clarice Lispector, it wouldn't be a summer TBR if I didn't include her. And the next novel that I need to read, as I am going in chronological order of publication, is The Apple and the Dark. I actually started this with one of my best friends last year. We got up to page 26, but we just never carried it on, and I definitely would love to read another Clarice this summer. Obviously I finished her Complete Stories not too long ago, but I feel like I haven't read a novel from her in a really long time, and I'm craving her writing style. I say it all of the time. She's of course my favourite author ever, and everything that she writes endlessly floors me. I don't really know what to expect going into this one. Like I said, I love going into my books knowing nothing, even Clarice. However, due to her writing style and how eloquent and beautiful it is and how sort of philosophical it is, I know I'm going to fall in love with it, and I would love to read it this summer. And then finally, the last book of my summer TBR, it is another classic. It is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Obviously this says April in the title, however I've always heard that it is just an incredible read for spring and for summer, and because I didn't get to it this spring, I definitely want to get to it this year, and that means I'm going to read it in summer. For this one, all I know is that we are following 4 different women, and I believe that there is some sort of article in the Times, yeah, that is addressed to those who appreciate wisteria and sunshine, offers a small medieval castle to rent above a bay on the Italian Riviera. I've been very excited about this book for a really long time, and it sounds like the perfect classic for summer. So those are all of the books on my summer TBR. Obviously, as always, if you have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought about them, whether you like them or you dislike them. If any of them are on your TBR, please also feel free to let me know what are some books that you definitely want to read this summer. What is the one book that you'll be fighting for your life to read in the upcoming months? Equally, if you watch until the very end of the video and you don't really know what to comment but you want to show you stayed until the end, comment any summer emoji, of course. If you did enjoy this video and you are not yet subscribed, it would mean the absolute world to have you here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and for spending some time with me as always. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys very soon with another video.